I've always been good with my hands, good at fixing things that are broken. But some things you don't fix. You replace them. My name is Mark Sullivan, and for 23 years I've been a mechanic at Sullivan's Auto, the shop my father started and I took over when his heart gave out. I know engines. I know transmissions. I know the sound a bearing makes right before it fails. That tiny whisper of metal fatigue that most people never hear. Maybe that's why I noticed when my marriage started making the same sound. Emily wasn't always like this. When we met 15 years ago at her cousin's wedding, she was drawn to what she called my quiet confidence. She loved that I could fix her beat-up Honda with nothing but basic tools and determination. She'd sit on a milk crate in my garage, drinking beer and laughing at my stories about difficult customers. We were happy with our Friday night pizzas, our Sunday morning coffee on the porch, our simple life in our simple house on Maple Street. The changes started small. "Why don't we ever go anywhere interesting?" she'd ask, scrolling through Instagram. "Look at Sarah's trip to Cabo. Look at Michelle's new kitchen renovation." I'd remind her that Sarah's husband was drowning in debt and Michelle was on her third marriage, but Emily would just sigh and say, "I didn't understand." Then came the late nights, marketing conferences that somehow required evening sessions, team building, dinners that lasted until midnight. Her phone, which used to sit forgotten on the counter, became an extension of her hand. She'd angle it away when I walked by, tilt the screen just enough that I couldn't see. The passcode changed from our anniversary date to something I didn't know. New perfume appeared on her dresser, something expensive that made her smell like a stranger. Receipts from coffee shops in neighborhoods she had no reason to visit. The way she'd touch up her makeup before running to the grocery store. The way she stopped asking about my day, stopped sharing hers. I wanted to trust her. God, I wanted to trust her. I didn't want to be that husband, the paranoid one who checks phone records and follows his wife's car. My father always told me that trust was the foundation of everything. Without it, you're just two strangers sharing bills. So I pushed down the whispers, ignored the warning signs, told myself I was imagining things. But mechanics learn to trust their instincts. When something feels wrong, it usually is. That Tuesday night in October, Emily thought I was asleep. I heard her phone buzz on the nightstand, once, twice, 3 times in quick succession. She grabbed it and slipped into the bathroom. Through the door. I could hear her giggling, that light musical laugh she hadn't given me in months. When she came back to bed, she was careful not to touch me, creating a gap between us that felt like a canyon. I lay there in the dark, listening too. Her breathing eventually slowed into sleep and made a decision. I wasn't going to confront her with suspicions and feelings. I wasn't going to beg for the truth or demand answers she'd only lie about. I was going to do what I did best. Diagnose the problem systematically, gather evidence, understand exactly what was broken before I decided whether to fix it or scrap it entirely. The next morning, I went to my garage earlier than usual. I sat at my workbench, cleaning and organizing my tools. Each wrench had its place, each screwdriver its home. Order from chaos. That's what I needed now. Order from the chaos Emily had brought into our life. I've spent my whole life fixing things. But that night, staring at Emily's phone lighting up with messages she thought I couldn't see, I realized some things aren't meant to be fixed. They're meant to be exposed. I hired the private investigator on a Thursday morning. 3 days after my decision, Peterson Investigations, located 3 towns over in Millbrook, where nobody knew me. Tom Peterson was a former cop, thick-bodied and direct, the kind of man who'd seen enough betrayal to be unsurprised by anything. "You want the full package or just confirmation?" he asked, sliding a service menu across his cluttered desk. "Everything," I said. "Photos, recordings if legal, background on whoever she's seeing, financial activity, everything." Tom studied me. "You sure?" Sometimes knowing less is better for the divorce proceedings. Emotional distress and all that. I fix things for a living, I told him. Can't fix what I don't fully understand. The first report came a week later. Tom had followed Emily to lunch at Chez Laurent, the French place downtown where appetizers cost more than our weekly grocery budget. The photos were clear. Emily laughing, her hand resting on the forearm of a man in a $1,000 suit. David Whitman, 32, marketing executive at Pearson Associates. MBA from Wharton, Tesla in the parking lot, everything I wasn't. Studied those photos at my workbench after closing the shop. Emily wore a dress I'd never seen, jewelry that wasn't in her regular rotation. She looked radiant, alive in a way she hadn't looked with me in years. In one photo, David was feeding her something from his fork. In another, her head was thrown back in laughter, her neck exposed, vulnerable and beautiful. Tom's surveillance continued. Tuesday lunches became a pattern. Thursday evening client meetings were actually wine bars in the city. The weekend conference in Boston, 3 weeks into his investigation, turned out to be a bed and breakfast in the Berkshires. Tom was thorough, professional, and somehow apologetic in his detailed documentation of my wife's double life. The text messages were the worst part. Tom's tech guy had recovered them from Emily's cloud backup. She'd never changed the password, from when I'd set it up years ago. David. Can't stop thinking about last night, Emily, me neither. Mark would die if he knew what that conference room table has seen David. When are you going to leave him? Emily. Soon. Just need to figure out the money situation. In this state, I should get half of everything, including his business. David. You deserve so much more than that grease monkey, Emily. He's not a bad man, just small. Small dreams, small life. I need more grease monkey. 15 years of marriage, and I was a grease monkey with small dreams. I organized everything methodically. Photos sorted by date and location, text transcripts highlighted for relevance, financial records showing charges, at hotels during supposed girls' nights. A timeline of lies, each one documented and verified. The strangest part was how calm I felt. No rage, no desperate sorrow. Just a cold, clear understanding that the woman sleeping beside me each night was a stranger wearing my wife's face. She was planning to destroy me financially while painting herself as the victim. The small-town mechanic's wife who deserved better. I researched divorce law obsessively. In our state, adultery didn't automatically affect asset division, but it could impact alimony. With enough evidence of financial deception and planning, I could protect the business my father had built. But I needed Emily to make a mistake, to be caught so thoroughly that no lawyer could spin it in her favor. Tom called on a Tuesday evening, 6 weeks after I'd hired him, while Emily was at another client dinner. Your wife's getting careless, he said. What? I asked. Whitman's been to your house, he replied. What? Twice. During your work hours. Neighbors might have noticed the Tesla, he explained. I sat in my empty kitchen, processing this violation. Our bed. She'd brought him to our bed. There's more, Tom continued. Whitman's married. Wife doesn't know. Might be useful leverage. Send me everything, I said. That night, I watched Emily come home, slightly drunk, humming to herself. She kissed my cheek absently and headed to shower. I heard her phone buzz from the bathroom counter, heard her laugh, heard her whisper, I love you too, to someone who wasn't me. Emily thought she was so clever, so careful. But mechanics know something most people don't. Every machine has a breaking point. And I'd just found hers. The idea of a second honeymoon came to me while I was rebuilding a transmission. Sometimes, to fix something properly, you have to take it completely apart first, lay every piece on the table, and see how they've worn against each other. I started my performance on a Sunday morning, 2 months after hiring Tom. Emily was drinking. Coffee, scrolling through her phone with that distant smile that meant she was texting David. I sat down across from her, reached for her free hand. "We need to talk," I said. Her face went pale. The phone clicked silent. "About what?" she asked nervously. "About us. We're drifting, Em. I can feel it." The relief that flooded her features told me everything. She thought I was oblivious, just finally noticing the distance she'd created. I felt it too," she admitted. "I want to fix this. I've been thinking, what if we went away? Just us, like a second honeymoon." I watched her process this, the guilt flickering across her face, followed by calculation. Could she do this without arousing suspicion? Would it buy her more time to plan her exit? "Where would we go?" she asked, carefully. "I found this cabin, up in the Berkshires, completely off-grid, just mountains and forest. No distractions, just us, figuring out how to be us again." The irony wasn't lost on me. The same area where she'd spent that conference weekend with David just weeks ago. Her eye twitched just slightly. "When?" she inquired. 2 weeks. I've already arranged coverage at the shop." She forced a smile. "That sounds wonderful." Over the next 2 weeks, I became the husband she'd claimed to want. I brought her flowers, not grocery store bouquets, but arrangements from the fancy florist downtown. I cooked elaborate dinners, lit candles, asked about her day with seemingly genuine interest. I initiated intimacy with patience and attention I hadn't shown in years. Emily was confused, off balance. Sometimes, in quiet moments, I'd catch her looking at me with something like regret. Once, after I'd spent an hour massaging her feet while we watched her favorite movie, she started crying. "What's wrong?" I asked gently. "You're being so wonderful." "I don't deserve this," she sobbed. "Everyone deserves a second chance," I said, kissing her forehead while memorizing the exact shade of guilt in her eyes. Meanwhile, I prepared. The cabin was perfect, 4 hours from civilization, accessible only by a winding mountain road. No cell towers for miles. I'd driven up twice to scout it, ensuring every detail. The evidence box went into my truck's lockbox. I packed our bags. With calculated care, including the lingerie I'd found hidden in her drawer, the sets she'd never worn for me. The drive up was surreal. Emily tried to seem excited, pointing out foliage, making small talk. But I saw her checking her phone constantly until the bars disappeared, saw her jaw tighten when she realized she couldn't send David a final message. The first 2 days were a masterclass in manipulation, mine and hers. I recreated our early dates, hiking to hidden waterfalls, cooking together, dancing to our wedding song on the cabin's worn wooden floors. I told her stories about our beginning, reminded her of inside jokes, made her laugh genuinely for the first time in months. She responded like a woman drowning in guilt. Sometimes she'd lean into the nostalgia, kissing me with something approaching, real passion. Other times, she'd excuse herself to the bathroom, and I'd hear her trying desperately to find a signal spot, probably needing to hear David's voice to remind herself why she was destroying us. On the second night, after we'd made love with surprising tenderness, she curled against me and whispered, "Maybe we can fix this." "Maybe," I agreed, stroking her hair, knowing that in less than 24 hours, she'd understand the price of throwing away 15 years. I barely slept that final night. Emily was peaceful beside me, one hand on my chest, breathing deep and even. She looked younger in sleep, like the woman who'd said "I do" with tears of joy in her eyes. I memorized this moment, the last time she'd ever feel safe with me. Tomorrow she'd learn what 15 years of trust could buy you and what it cost when you threw it away. The last morning arrived crisp and bright. I made Emily breakfast, blueberry, pancakes, her favorite, with real maple syrup and fresh coffee. She came down wearing my old flannel shirt, hair messy, looking more like the woman I'd married than she had in years. "This has been wonderful," she said, and I believed she meant it. "I feel like I've remembered who we used to be." "We're going to remember a lot of things today," I replied. After breakfast, I suggested one final hike. We took the trail that led to an overlook where you could see 3 states on a clear day. Emily held my hand on the steep parts, laughed. When we startled a deer, took selfies of us with the valley spread below. She saved them to her phone, no signal to post them, but I watched her smile at the screen. Evidence of happiness she'd probably delete later. Back at the cabin, as the sun set through the trees, Emily opened a bottle of wine and settled into the worn leather couch. She looked content, almost happy. That's when I retrieved the box from. "My truck. What's that?" she asked, wine glass pausing at her lips. "The truth," I said, setting it on the coffee table between us. I opened it slowly, like a mechanic revealing a destroyed engine to a customer. First, the photos. Emily and David at Chez Laurent, her hand on his thigh. The kiss in the parking. Garage! The wine glass slipped from her hand, red spreading across the wooden floor like blood. "Mark, I can explain," she started desperately. "Please don't." I spread more photos across the table. The hotel receipts, the weekend in the Berkshires when she was supposedly at a conference. "Tom Peterson is very thorough. 3 towns over, in case you're wondering. Been documenting everything for 2 months. Her face cycled through expressions. Shock, fear, calculation, desperation. "Those could be anyone," she protested weakly. I pulled out the text transcripts. "Should I read these aloud? The ones where you call me a grease monkey? Where you and David discuss your intimate life in our bed? Or maybe the financial planning? How you were going to take half my father's business?" Emily stood, pacing now, her hands shaking. "It's not what it looks like. David means nothing. It was just... I was confused. Lonely," she pleaded. "Lonely," I repeated. "In our bed. While I was working to pay for the life you said wasn't enough." "We can fix this," she said, tears starting now. "Counseling. We'll go to counseling. I'll end it with David today. David Whitman, married, by the way. His wife Jennifer doesn't know yet, but she will by tomorrow." I pulled out my phone, showed her the email I'd drafted to Jennifer Whitman, complete with attachments. "Unless you'd prefer to tell her yourself?" Emily collapsed back onto the couch. "You can't. His kids," she whispered. "His kids deserve a father who doesn't destroy families for fun." I pulled out the final item, the recordings Tom had made. "Want to hear yourself from last Tuesday, when you told him you loved him? When you laughed about how stupid I was?" I played it. Emily's voice filled the cabin, cruel and dismissive, discussing our love life with clinical detachment, planning her exit strategy, mocking my proposal to fix our marriage. The woman on the recording bore no resemblance to the woman crying on the couch. When it ended, silence stretched between us like a chasm. "I'm leaving," I said finally. "The divorce papers are in the box. You wanted freedom from our boring life. Congratulations, you've got it." "You can't leave me here," she said, her voice pitching toward hysteria. "It's miles from anywhere." 4 hours to the nearest town. There's a landline in the cabin for emergencies. Though I doubt David will accept a collect call, I answered. Coldly, I picked up my keys, my jacket. Emily grabbed my arm, mascara streaming down her face. "Please, don't do this!" 15 years, Mark. "Doesn't that mean anything?" she begged. "It meant everything to me," I said, removing her hand. "To you, it was worth less than a marketing executive with a Tesla." "I'll die out here," she screamed. "No, you'll walk. You'll be uncomfortable, tired, probably scared. But you'll survive. You're good at that, surviving on other people's efforts," I replied matter-of-factly. I headed for the door. Emily followed, screaming now, alternating between threats and promises. She'd ruin me. She'd kill herself. She'd love me forever if I just stayed. She'd make it all up to me. At the truck, I turned back one final time. Your belongings will be on the lawn when you get home. The locks are already changed. Your parents know you're coming. You bastard, she screamed. You can't do this. Watch me, I said, and drove away. I could hear Emily screaming my name from the cabin porch as I drove down that mountain road, her voice getting smaller and smaller until it disappeared completely. For the first time in months, the only sound in my truck was the engine running smooth and strong, exactly the way it should be. The drive home was 4 hours of pure clarity. I stopped at Murphy's Diner halfway back, ordered coffee and apple pie, and called my lawyer from the parking lot. With the evidence I'd gathered, he assured me, the divorce would be straightforward. Emily's adultery, combined with proof of financial deception, meant she'd have no claim to the business, minimal alimony, if any. She'll fight, he warned. With what? I asked. She's got no money for a lawyer without me, and no lawyer will take her case on contingency once they see the evidence. At home, I worked methodically. Emily's clothes went into garbage bags, not maliciously, just efficiently. Her jewelry, her photos, her collection of romance novels that had probably given her ideas about David being her soulmate. 23. Bags total, lined up on the lawn like soldiers. I changed the locks myself. I'm a mechanic, after all. Hands that can rebuild an engine can certainly handle a deadbolt. I forwarded her mail to her parents' address, canceled her credit cards. On our joint accounts, removed her name from the utilities. Surgery, precise and clean. I took the week off work, knowing Emily would eventually make it home, and I wanted to be there for the final scene. Her parents called that evening. Her father, Bill, started angry. What the hell did you do? Emily's missing. She's at the cabin in the Berkshires. There's a landline there for emergencies. She chose not to use it. I interrupted calmly. You left her? He demanded. I left an adulteress who was planning to destroy me. Would you like to see the evidence? I countered. Silence. Then, we'll go get her, he said quietly. I'd wait. Let her walk out on her own. She wanted independence. This is what it looks like, I advised. 3 days. That's how long it took Emily to make it back. I learned the details later from neighbors who'd watched the drama unfold. She'd tried walking the first day, made it maybe 5 miles before turning back. The second day, she'd conserved energy, probably hoping I'd return. The third day, desperation drove her to walk the entire distance, arriving at the nearest town, filthy, exhausted, and humiliated. Bill picked her up at a gas station. The owner told me later she looked like a homeless person, hair matted, designer. Clothes torn and dirty, makeup long gone. She'd cried the entire drive home, apparently, while her mother sat in stony silence. I watched from my living room window as Bill's Buick pulled up to our house. Emily saw the bags on the lawn first. She stumbled out of the car, tried her key in the lock. When it didn't work, she began pounding on the door. "Mark, open the door! This is my house, too!" she shouted. The neighbors were watching. Mrs. Patterson, from across the street. The Johnsons from next door. Everyone Emily had played the perfect wife for, now seeing her unraveled on the lawn. I let her pound for almost an hour. Let her scream and cry and threaten. Let the neighborhood see exactly who Emily Sullivan really was. Then I opened the door, standing in the frame to block any attempt at entry. She looked destroyed. Her hair hung limp. Her face was gaunt. Her clothes, the same ones from the cabin, were ruined. She smelled like fear and forest and fury. "The divorce papers are in the box," I said calmly. "Sign them or contest them, your choice. But either way, this marriage is over." "You can't just throw me away," she screamed. "I'm not throwing you away. I'm returning you to your parents, like defective merchandise. David Whitman has been informed of your situation, by the way. His wife knows everything." "I doubt he'll be your safety net," I replied evenly. Emily lunged at me, trying to push past into the house. I stepped outside, closing the door behind me. "This is theft," she screamed. "I'll call the police." Please do. I have documents proving adultery and financial fraud. They'll be very interested, I answered. Bill approached then, his face exhausted. Come on, Emily, let's go home, he said wearily. This is my home, she protested. Not anymore, I stated. As Bill guided Emily back to the car, she turned one last time. I loved you once, she said desperately. I know, I said. That's what makes this so pathetic. As Emily's parents' car disappeared around the corner, I realized something I hadn't expected. I wasn't angry anymore. The rage that had been eating at me for months was gone, replaced by something cleaner. Justice doesn't always roar. Sometimes it just closes the door and walks away. 6 months. That's what it took for everything to settle into its final configuration. The divorce was finished in 4 months, rapid by legal standards. Emily's lawyer, a public defender type Bill had found, crumbled when presented with the evidence. Photos, texts, financial records, recordings. Emily walked away with her clothes, her car, and nothing else. No alimony. No claim to the house or business. The judge even noted the attempted financial deception in his ruling. David Whitman's story ended predictably. His wife, Jennifer, received my email the day after I left Emily at the cabin. Their divorce was messier than ours. 2 kids, substantial assets, his career on the line. His company, discovering the affair had included encounters in their offices, terminated him for violations of professional conduct. Last I heard, he was selling insurance in Phoenix. Emily lives with her parents now. Bill told me she works at Target, stocking shelves on the night shift. She'd tried reaching out to David, but he'd blocked her number before she even made it home from the cabin. She'd tried dating apps, but word travels in small towns. Everyone knows she's the woman who cheated on Mark Sullivan, the mechanic who keeps their cars running. I see her sometimes at the grocery store or gas station. She looks older, harder. The confidence is gone, replaced by something brittle. She always looks away first. My life rebuilt itself gradually. The shop is busier than ever. Apparently, people respect a man who stands up for himself. I'm dating again. Nothing serious yet, but there's a teacher named Carol who brings her Camry in for oil changes and laughs at my bad jokes. She's simple, honest, everything Emily pretended to be. The house feels different now. Lighter. I replaced the bedroom furniture, painted the walls, made it mine. No ghosts. No memories of betrayal. Just a space where I can breathe. Tom Peterson called last week. You doing okay? He asked. Better than okay, I replied. Good. You handled that situation with class. Most men would have gone scorched earth, he said approvingly. I gave her what she wanted, I said. Freedom. She just didn't realize freedom comes with a price. Some nights, I think about Emily in that cabin, realizing I wasn't coming back. I wonder if she understood then what she'd thrown away, or if that clarity came later during the long walk home. I wonder if she thinks about our life and realizes it wasn't small, it was real. But mostly, I don't think about her at all. She got exactly what she asked for. Sometimes the cruelest thing you can do for someone is give them exactly what they think they want. And so, we've reached the end of today's story. Was it what you expected, or did it take a twist you didn't see coming? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below, and let's get a conversation going. If this story kept you hooked, make sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here or just haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to join our community. I bring you fresh, captivating stories every day, so click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.